to the Nintendo World Championships 2017. Now, please give a warm welcome to our host for the evening, Andrea Renee.
Hello, everybody! How is everybody doing tonight? Yes! Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Andrea Renee, and you are watching the Nintendo Championships 2017. Oh my gosh. We have so many awesome competitors here on stage. We have a fantastic live audience here in the Manhattan Center Grand Ballroom. Are you guys doing okay? We've got millions of people out there across the world watching on streaming services and, of course, broadcasting live on DXP. Basically, everybody's watching us right now. You guys aren't nervous at all, are you, players? No? They're like, nah, we're good to go. But we have 24 players on stage here, as you can see, across 3 different categories. We've got some special invitees down here in the front. We've got an actor, we've got a WWE superstar, and a bunch of other cool folks. Then we've got our 13 and over category, including returning champion John Numbers. And of course, our 12 and under, who I'm really hoping are going to kick everybody's butt in this competition, including kids as young as 8 years old, which is crazy to think about, yeah. So I was 8 years old when I played my very first video game. So I work in video games, so a lot of times people are constantly asking me, Andrea, what's the first game that you ever played? And I get to tell the same story every time. It was Super Mario Brothers on the NES. Who started their gaming career with that, right? Classic. My dad bought me the console as a kid, and I'm sure lots of dads out there bought their children consoles as well. Now, he says he bought it for me, but let's be honest. He bought it for himself, and he let me play it. So that was very nice of him. So I'm really pumped to be here. Nintendo is awesome, and I'm so glad to be working with them tonight. We have lots of great games lined up for you guys. We've got some old school games, some new school games, some games you're never going to see coming, some games I've never even heard of before. So we've got some surprises is what I'm trying to say. So in order to, you trying to guess? You trying to guess? You're not gonna guess, trust me. You can try. Oh my gosh, they're losing it in the front row, ladies and gentlemen. Well, listen, we gotta get this tournament kicked off right, so that in order to do that, we gotta learn about the rules, how they're gonna win. So joining me tonight, giving incredible play-by-play, is a wonderful group of casters who are going to be up in the balcony, and they are led by the one and only Jordan Kent. Jordan, take it away.
Oh, Andrea, thank you so much. An electric crowd here. The batteries are charged. I'm joined up here with Audrey and Morgan of Nintendo Treehouse, and before we get going on what the stages will be, let's break down the rules for the 2017 Nintendo World Championships. 24 competitors. 6 stages, 1 champion. But here's how things are going to work out. Stage 1, as we mentioned, 24 players will get started. From that, we'll eliminate things down to 16 players. 8 of those players will go down to Underground number 1. We'll break that down here in a second. Stage 2, 16 players will battle it out in another game. From there, we'll kick a couple more down to the Underground. That'll be 6 more players in the Underground. Now, if you win in the Underground, you advance to the next level of the Underground. Getting to stage 3, the stakes will get even higher as we now have 12 players remaining. Of those 12 players, we will kick off about 4 of them, and they will join the 2 survivors in the Underground 3. Then we get to stage 4. Now we're just left with 8 players. At this point, we'll kick off half of the players. 4 of them will go back down to Underground number 4, where they will battle with the 2 survivors in the Underground. And then stage 5, as we mentioned, 4 players left above ground at this point. We will eliminate more of them, half of them as we mentioned, and then we get to our final Underground. 4 players remaining. Only one of those can emerge from Underground 5 and join our 2 other survivors in a 3-player finals. That finals also will feature 3 games in the finals. 1 person will advance from that first final game, leaving 2 other players left to duke it out in a survivor match. And from there, we head to our championship game. 2 players standing controller to controller for the rights of being the 2017 Nintendo World Champion. A lot of information there, Audrey, but let's start with this whole concept of the underground. How is that going to work out this evening?
The underground is the player's chance at redemption. They may be out of the main stages, but if they're good at the games in the underground, they still have a chance to fight their way back to the finale.
And Morgan, you obviously look at the fact that we're looking to crown a champion. Some of these players, they might be really good at a specific game, maybe a specific genre, but what's it going to take from this year's champion to emerge victorious?
That's right, Jordan. I think we're going to test these players. We're going to test their whole range of Nintendo abilities, and they're going to have to channel that focus with this crowd, the energy of the crowd, the pressure of the moment. They're going to have to overcome the other players and their own nerves and sort of get their thumbs to become champions.
As we mentioned, 24 players, 6 stages, 1 champion, and 1 fun-filled evening. But before we get started, here's a special video message.
Hi, everyone. This is Reggie from Nintendo. Welcome to the Nintendo World Championships 2017. Nintendo has the greatest fans in the world. The Nintendo spirit of fun, competitive gaming thrives in everyone who's attending the event in person and in the millions more watching on Nintendo's Twitch and YouTube channels and on DXP. We've got some great competitors lined up, and I can't wait to see how they handle the current and classic Nintendo games we're going to throw at them. I'm sorry I can't be there with you in person, but I'm extremely busy working behind closed doors on the top secret, highly anticipated. Congratulations to all of our qualifiers, and good luck to everyone competing.
Thank you, Reggie. I'm sure about the first 3 rows are going to play that video back 37 times to try to read your lips right there. But you mentioned, Morgan, all of the competitors that we have. We've got 13 and over, we've got 12 and under, we've got some invitees, but one familiar face, John Numbers. Your impressions on what he was able to do in 2015 and what he can bring this year?
That's right. John Numbers, our defending champion. He won the Nintendo World Championships in 2015. The champ is back. The champ is confident. The champ has been training. And if John Numbers can go back-to-back, he will become John Legendary.
John Legendary, the 2015 champ. And Audrey, this is a pretty big stage now.
A little bit, yes.
What will these players have to focus on as they continue to play in quite possibly the biggest spectacle of their lives?
And the thing about it is they can't let the nerves get to them, and you can't be good at just one Nintendo game. This is the Nintendo Championship, the Nintendo World Championship. You have to be good at all Nintendo games, so they really just have to be ready for anything here.
And Morgan, you're with 24 competitors, some of the best in the world. How important is it to kind of focus on what you do and not get distracted by what everybody else is doing?
Well, I think it's what they just saw that bracket as the audience did and the crowd watching, and they saw that, you don't have to win the first round to advance. You just don't need to finish in the bottom. So how does that affect their strategy? Are they playing every round to win? Are they playing every round to advance? We'll see.
All right, we've done our part. Let's get to our first stage, but to throw you a little bit of a curveball, stage 1. Not just 1 game, not just 2 games, but 3 games in stage 1. Here's Andrea to introduce the first one.
That's right, Jordan. This is going to be so exciting. You guys, I'm pumped to see what you're going to do. All right, Nintendo World Championships 2017. Are you guys ready to find out what the first game is? All right, let's find out.
Stage 1, Game 1. The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild. In this wide world of adventure, the hero Link must complete many unexpected tasks, much like our players in this competition. And the first one is Shields Up and Surfs Up. Any hero of legend worth their salt can ride a shield, but which of our fearless competitors is the shield surfing master? Time will tell. Each player will be scored based on their time at Selmy Spot. May the way of the hero lead to shield surfing glory.
The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, Selmies Shield Surfing. Let's take a look at the rules for our first game in Stage 1. Here's how things will work out. We're looking for the fastest time down the mountain. Players are ranked based on their finishing times. Points are earned based on rank. So for example, if you're first place, you're gonna get yourself 24 points. Second place, 23 points, all the way down to 24th place and 1 point. However, you have 3 minutes to finish this in one attempt. If you do not finish it in 3 minutes, that's 0 points. If for some reason you're Link and you run out of hearts, that's 0 points as well too. So these players certainly gonna have to carve their way down the mountain. And Audrey, you look at Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, one of the most expansive adventures that we've ever put our thumbs on, and you look at what these players might be facing when it comes time for shield surfing.
And that's the thing, you may know your way around a Master Sword, but you're nothing in Hyrule unless you're proficient with shield surfing. And these players are going to have to do the same thing that Link does. They're going to have to be quick on that shield, they're going to have to use the paraglider well, and they're going to have to choose between the easier route that's a little bit slower and the faster route that's full of obstacles.
Very good points. And Morgan, obviously, with 24 players and 16 advancing, what's going through these players' minds as we talk about risk-reward as far as maybe taking a challenging but quicker route or being a little bit more conservative?
Yeah, I think it comes down to their personal confidence level. You know, is this their game? Is this where we're going to make their mark? Or are they just going to make sure they finish and avoid that dreaded 0 points?
Well, let's get set to kick off the beginning of the 2017 Nintendo World Championships. The players are set to go. So players, ready, go! And we oftentimes talk about a very fast start being important in shield surfing. These players getting set, and we always like to make sure everything's technically sound, ready to go. You've got 12 competitors, 2 sets of 12 ready to go for the most part. Everyone's getting queued up as well too. And you want to make sure that they're comfortable with the controls. A lot of things that Link can do on the shield. And you want to make sure, as we said, you get off to a good start. That could be a precious second.
And it's true, you mentioned every second, every decision counts in here. So if you don't get on that shield right away and get right down that slope, you might not find yourself on top.
It's very true, and a lot of different things Link can do, and obviously you want to make sure as well too, Morgan, that you're comfortable with the way that you're going. This isn't necessarily the stage to try something brand new.
Yeah, I think our competitors are going to find out right away that when you're under this kind of pressure, your thumbs don't work the way they usually do. You might have a little input lag between your brain and your hands. So they might take the first few moments just to make sure they know what they're doing before they start really trying to push that time.
We continue to get things dialed in down there, making sure all of our players are comfortable and ready to go, make sure our officials are ready to go, because you're going to get a lot of players here, Audrey, finishing within the same time frame. Our judges have to make sure that they record that time, because that could be the difference between 1, 2, 3, even 4 points.
That's true. This comes down to the millisecond. If everybody's going down the similar path or making different decisions, it could be wildly different. We're going to have to see what happens.
Now, Morgan, personally, I have to ask you, how good of a shield surfer are you? I know you've had your hands on this before.
You know, I actually love, I was a snowboarder growing up. I did that a lot, so I actually love this. And I like that this sport takes a shield, which I think shields are kind of boring, you know? I mean, how fun is it to block somebody, but you throw that on the ground and jump on top of it and you're surfing? Now we're having fun.
I don't know. I like blocking, Jordan.
Yeah, I like to block some Lionel attacks as well, too, make sure that that doesn't get to me. And as we continue to get them dialed in and set to go, you mentioned this stage. It's 24 of the most competitive players here. And it looks like that we are set to go for Zelda Shield Surfing, our first game in Stage 1. The players are ready. The officials are ready. So let's kick it down to you to start things off. And you see the 12 box on your screen right now. It's all about the time that the game clock shows you, so they might start at different times. But we see right now, Sunny K at the top of your screen, struggling to get the start, but Kyle W having no issues whatsoever, and that's a strong start right here, Audrey.
Absolutely. We already see some people. They're doing tricks. They're feeling good. So these people that we're seeing, this isn't their first time shield surfing.
You're on a big stage. Why not show off? Oh. Meanwhile, Bailey trying to just explore some of the agriculture in Hyrule right now, hopping back on that shield. Marco R looking like they've got no issue whatsoever. And Anthony, watch out for that moose! No, Anthony! Morgan runs into some wildlife right there.
Yeah, nobody told the moose or the wolves, there's competition going on, so they're going to have to watch out for that.
Keep an eye on Austin in your top right, doing a fine job making his way down the mountain, no issues whatsoever. And Tuberon as well, too, doing just a fantastic job. They're already through the end of the early beginner part here, Audrey.
It's true, and they're doing a great job of finding the good downslopes. That's where you're really going to shave off the seconds here.
Austin showing off, doing some tricks right now, trying to avoid some rolls, but there's a rock, but no! Runs into some grass at this point, and this could be a tricky course sometimes. As Austin, though, going on the paraglider, but then pulling out the sword, Keep an eye on Kyle W right now. And Morgan, we saw this from some people, going this route using the paraglider and going perpendicular to the finish line.
Yeah, I think this is a good strategy right here. And the paraglider, gives you a chance to sort of spot that finish line. But also when you're in the air, you're going slower, so you can't spend too much time up there getting your bearings.
And it looks like Dan S is our first finisher as we hear the whistle go, but we're waiting for the other 11 to go. Still Kyle W huffing and puffing his way across the finish line, 1:32. That'll be a solid time, and don't forget, there's a 3-minute time cap. Let's check in with Anthony right now. Anthony seems like he's on the straight and narrow path, looking at those 2 goals, and here we see early on, Audrey, that risk-reward paying off for some players.
Absolutely, and we saw there running out of stamina is a real danger there, but they made it work, and they got a great time.
Anthony, though, going by Lizalfos, and that finishes right there. That's an important finish right there as well, too. John Numbers finishing as well, too. So already a kind of our top half of these 12 competitors crossing the finish line. However, Morgan, unfortunately, some of our players, they're getting stuck, but it's important to finish underneath that 3-minute cap.
Exactly, yeah, as long as you finish, you're gonna get something. 24th place is worth 1 point, not finishing worth 0.
Osmond's got about 45 seconds to try and find the finish. Plenty of time. You might as well get as many points as you possibly can in this first stage. However, Audrey, tick, 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 tick. You got to start being a little concerned about what's happening.
And that's true. I think the important thing to remember is that these players might be amazing at some other game, but shield surfing might not be their thing.
Bailey's on the last round right there, a quarter of a heart left. Meanwhile, Osden still trying to find the right path. It's not too late yet, but Link taking the steep way down, trying to avoid some enemies right here. Hits the wall, though. Why not go climbing for a little bit? Got to be persistent, though, and this is the difficulty we've talked about here, Morgan. Sometimes this, with the weather and you talk about all these drops, you can get a little disoriented.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you might think you know the way from point A to point B, but then you got a moose in your way, and then you go the wrong direction, and suddenly you've lost all track.
And that is the 3-minute cap, so players who have not finished yet, unfortunately, will get a 0. However, some impressive times that we saw there, some players finishing. You see John Numbers in the top 4 as well, too. So not bad for the first game in this first stage, but I think what we saw, going back to that term, risk-reward, that might pay to be a little bit more conservative and just finish here, Audrey.
I think so, especially in this first round where you're really just trying to survive. Some people went the risky route, didn't pay off.
And you look at some of these jumps, some of them a little small that you can manage, others that you need that paraglider for. And Morgan, it seemed like the players that really got off the main track looking for something interesting found themselves in some trouble.
Yeah, you can see oh, this has got to be the right way because it's downhill, it's funneling, and then the minute you find a dead end, you don't know how to get out of there.
Or you run into a moose. That happens as well, too. As we're transitioning to our next 12 players, let's take a look at the leaderboard after that first round of Selmy's Shield Surfing and Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And Cole, Dan, Marco, Kyle, those are your top 4. Meanwhile, Bailey Osden, unfortunately, not getting any points, but John Numbers finishing 9th. Keep an eye on him, your 2015 champion. So, as we discussed, we saw John Numbers finish with a fairly good time, but that was only good for 9th place. So, it seems like we had a very competitive first group here, Audrey.
Absolutely. You may think you do well, you can kick Selmies, but there are some people here who may be shield surfing in their spare time.
Cole's a little bit better than Selmy. So, we've seen one group go here, Morgan. When you take a look at that strategy, do you think it pays off to try and do something a little risky, or do you stay in that middle of the path and maybe just play it a little bit safer to the chest?
Yeah, I think you still got to stay in your own lane. They're going to find out a lot in this first round, sort of how they react to this kind of pressure. And, I think it's less about maybe trying to win this round as just like find your own focus and just figure out where you need to be to like make it deep into this competition.
Try to survive and advance, and as a reminder, first place overall, 24 points, 23 points for second place, all the way down to 24th place, you'll get 1 point. Players will have 3 minutes to finish the course. If you run out of hearts or you don't finish, you will get a 0. So we'll get our next 12 players suited up here and ready to go for their run down the mountain. But you talk about kind of getting that first taste of the championship action here, and it must be a relief for some of these players to get that first game and get a good performance under their belt.
Absolutely. Remember, some of these players have never performed for a large audience under these bright lights, so maybe they've got the shakes out of their thumbs and they'll do a little better in the next.
And it's a very loud and encouraging audience too, which is great. Certainly
great
bringing
audience.
energy up in here. It makes for an unbelievable atmosphere as well too. We're getting our next 12 players all situated, as we said, to go. And we look at this first stage. We mentioned there's going to be 3 games here, Morgan. So with 3 games, what happens if you don't do so well in shield surfing? Maybe you don't perform like you thought you would. Is there any reason to panic at this point?
I don't think so, because 16 move on, 8 go into the underground. So you at the end of the day, if you get 8th or 16th or 17th or lower, you still have a chance to come back into the underground. And top 16, you don't have to win. You just need to stay in the game.
And it's a very interesting point you make because maybe you don't perform as well as you would like to, but then you don't have to press it necessarily when you look at these next 2 games that we'll soon reveal. But before we get to that, looks like our players are ready for our second group of players for their run in Selmie's Shield Surfing. So players, are you ready? Let's go ahead and go. Taking a look at the 12 box right now, that start is very critical. We saw some of our players not even hop on the shield early on. For example, Kyle H taking a little bit of a stroll before he hops on the shield. However, Wyatt not wasting any time. And you look at the top right of your screen, Wyatt already, Audrey, going down that left-hand path.
Absolutely. He's doing great, finding those down slopes. So that's probably going to make for a good time.
You've got your speedrunner, Yellow Killer B, on the bottom left of your 4 box right here, doing a terrific job of just sticking on the main path. Let's go ahead and switch up the view right here. Looks like a lot more of our competitors kind of sticking to that more traditional route here, Morgan.
Yeah, I think that they may be reacting to what happened in the first round. You think, if I can just finish, all I got to do is finish, and I've got something in the pocket for the next round.
This is the second set of 12 competitors in Selmie Shield Surfing as we're on the first stage of our 2017 Nintendo World Championships.
Are those boos we're hearing, Jordan? No, those are mooses we're hearing.
And you take a look at about a minute in right now, Kyle S. going down the grassy path. Hey, the shield will still work on that, of course. But we noticed that some of those top times were low 130s in that first group, so you got to start hoping you see that finish line as we see a couple Les Alphos right there. And nobody yet has cleared this finish line, but we see Jeff B right now going past some more wildlife. Oh dear. Watch out for that Les Alphos as well, too.
You have to be ready for
there's
anything.
the finish line, though, for Jeff B. Using that paraglider, and Audrey, what we saw there was not using the paraglider the whole time to expedite Link's descent.
And that's a really great strategy because the paraglider is slow. So if you kind of, there we go.
There's Wyatt.
Wyatt finishes, Jeff finishes. Why so Sarah so close? And as we mentioned, very stiff competition. And if you think that you're going to get a high 140, maybe do well, it might be tough. Asa Butterfield finishing as well, too. Kyle H crossing the finish line. So it seems like this group is having a little bit more success finding the goal here, Morgan.
Yeah, I'm impressed. I think Wyatt A won that round, and I believe Wyatt was our fastest qualifier in the under 12 bracket.
Wyatt, very impressive work right there. However, AB still got some chance, though. This is good for some points, though, because you've got a couple zeros in that first group. If you can finish here, you're going to get at least 3 points here, Audrey.
That's true. And here, you just want to go for something. You don't want that 0. Just get to the end.
Oh, Lake almost running out of stamina, and Abe trying to refill that stamina meter, climbing some rocks. Maybe you can find some leverage, use that paraglider to get down to the finish line. However, there are some points at stake, and you don't have that many hearts, and you have your standard stamina bar, Audrey, and that's going to make it very tough to scale some of these mountains.
Yeah, you just have that one stamina wheel, so it's going to be hard to get all the way up that mountain, but everyone's cheering for Abe.
The crowd is chanting Abe's name, trying to support Abe to the finish line to try and get some points. You can't pass up this opportunity, but 3 seconds left, unfortunately, for Abe, and you know it was a valiant effort. However, shield surfing can be very difficult to try and understand. But Morgan, like you said, maybe you don't do as well as you'd like to. You still got 2 more games in stage 1 to turn things around.
Yeah, not all is lost. These guys, again, we got 3 games in this first round, so this is only a third of that. And again, you just don't want to finish 17th.
Audrey, your impressions of that second group, it seems like a lot more than finished that race roughly within the same amount of time.
Yeah, we saw a lot of people making proficient use of the difficult route. They really knew where to go and how to get there quickly, so that was a really great group.
We saw a great use of the paraglider, trying to use that and deploy it so you wouldn't take damage on the fall, but also falling as fast as you possibly can. And it seems like anything low 130s, you're going to be pretty good, but there were a lot of people in that 130 range, Morgan, so this leaderboard is going to be very interesting to see.
Yeah, just to remind everyone, the people in both groups are competing against each other. So we're going to, on the back, our judges are putting all 24 of those times together, and then we're going to stack them up top to bottom.
Our judges are punching their calculators and using their protractors and figuring out all the math that is possible to give us a ranking right there. A live look at them. Lots of coffee and caffeine going on in that back room, working very, very hard. But So far, we saw the general skill of everybody here, and I think it's safe to say we're in store for an incredible championships. Looks like we're ready to take a look at our leaderboard. So where are the standings after the first game in stage 1? There's your top 24, a couple of zeros, but that's okay. Still plenty of room to make their way up. But Cole, Dan, Thomas, 360, Chris M, and Marco are your top 5. But keep an eye on spots 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. Not a whole lot of room to operate there. It's going to be very tight and close. So your thoughts on how bunched up we're going to be at those 15, 16, 17 spots, Morgan, as we get set here soon?
I don't know. Looking at this spread, it actually doesn't look too bad because if you're looking from 17 on down, 0 to 8 points is a pretty narrow spread. So if I'm at the bottom, I maybe don't feel too bad. But if I'm Cole G, Dan S, Thomas G, 360, Marco, I feel pretty good right now.
It's such a good point because maybe you did get a 0, unfortunately. Well, you're only 7 points away from still qualifying. And there's 2 more games left to be played in this first stage. So no reason to panic, no reason to fret at all.
That's true.
But we mentioned 3 games. You guys ready to see the second game? Here is the intro for the second game in stage 1.
Stage 1, Game 2. This round will determine who puts the most smash in Super Smash Bros. For Wii U. In this home run contest, players will be scored based on the distance they hit the sandbag. In other words, time to put up or strike out. May the heaviest hitters swing the game.
This place just absolutely erupted here. Super Smash Bros. Wii U home run contest. Let's take a look at the rules for this one. Each player will get 2 attempts each. We will go in groups of 12, and in that group of 12, we'll divide them into 3 groups of 4. First group will go, second group will go, third group will go with their first attempt. Then we'll snake it backwards. Third group will take their second attempt, second group will take their second, first group will take their second. We're scoring based on how far they hit sandbag. Points are earned based on ranks, similar to shield surfing. Furthest distance, 24 points, second furthest, 23, all the way down to 1. However, if you hit a couple of foul balls and get double zeros on both your attempts, that is a 0, of course. And Morgan, I think a lot of people familiar with Super Smash Bros., but tell us a little bit more about what we'll expect to see in this home run contest.
Yeah, so home run contest, sort of a different beast. Smash Bros., you're fighting against one person, 8 people, whatever, you're beating up on other players. This, you're just beating up on Mr. Sandbag, and you've only got 10 seconds to do damage and then get 1 hit in to sort of send him flying, and that 10 seconds is going to go fast in this kind of pressure-packed environment.
You mentioned Mr. Sandbag. Don't worry about him. He can take a lot of damage. Don't worry about Mrs. Sandbag and the 2 little bean bags at home. He'll be all right. Looks like our players are set and ready to go. So here's our first group of 12 in the home run contest, starting with that first group of 4. Now, Audrey, they get 2 attempts, and you get 10 seconds to do damage on Sandbag. How do you judge between doing damage and racking that up versus going and timing up your smash attack potential?
I'll be honest, in this first round, I think you've got to play it a little bit conservative. You want to make sure you get a hit in at all.
A couple of Roys, a Ganondorf, and a King DDD as we get set. 3 seconds left. And looks like Wyatt A got a hold of Sandbag. Let's see where that goes. Back, 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 back. And just like the crowd in the game, the crowd in here pumping this up. 48-66 for Wyatt A, knocking that one out of the park, sending a souvenir to somebody. And that's what we've seen with Roy here, Audrey, is you get a really good attempt if you just time that special B.
Yeah, Roy's our boy for a reason.
Roy, Ganondorf, and Ganondorf.
Oh.
Ace of Butterfield with a nice connection. Yellow Killer B getting some work. Abe and Santiago, everybody getting a hold of Sandbag. Santiago, though, oh, Abe and Santiago above 3,000, and already, Morgan, we're seeing some impressive distances.
That group is a force and put on a show right now, and I feel like if I'm in the next group, I'm sweating a little bit.
The crowd is loving this as the third group of 4 gets set to go. We've got 2 Ganondorfs, a Roy, and you guessed it, another Roy. Stephen G doing a fine job comboing that Sandbag. Let's see if Ganon's the reverse Warlock punch by Stephen G gonna send this thing sailing. However, Thomas Dream misses. Let's see how this goes for Stephen.
Oh, and look at 360.
Oh.
360 Chris M launching that Sandbag to 58-46. That is your leader in the clubhouse after the first attempt. perfectly executed right there. Morgan.
That's our leader in the clubhouse. I don't know why he's 360 Chrism. He should be 5,800 Chrism after that one.
And you look at how technical it is, especially with some of these characters, Audrey, but it seems like these players have some experience playing some home run contests.
These players know just how to time their final attack. We saw earlier some people struggling with Mr. Sandbag, getting in position for the last hit, but these guys, they knew what they were doing.
Now, they will get a chance to change characters for their second attempt if they would like to, but Morgan, there were some people that got zeros as well, too. So what's your approach as you get set for your second attempt? Are you aggressive still, or do you try to at least get a score out there?
I think you got to get something on the board. What we saw happen a couple times is when you're beating up Sandbag, everything's going great. He's right in front of you. You're doing damage, and then the last hit knocks him behind you. It's really difficult to get back in position and get that last hit and do all that in like 1 second.
Such a good point. And Audrey, with that final smash, whether somebody's using the home run bat or using one of their special attacks, it's important to think about the physics as far as where you make contact with Sandbag.
You have to absolutely think about the positioning, think about the timing. You might be trying to get a really good Warlock punch in there, but then you're half a second too late and you don't get anything.
As we continue to get things set to go for this next group, there are so many little fine details. And Morgan, you have to execute so many things in 10 seconds. You start to feel that internal timer tick faster and faster and faster.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to see these guys. It's like damage, 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 damage. Wait. Okay, where's Sandbag? Okay, do that last hit, and it comes at you quick.
360 Chrism has your leader right now at 5,800, but here comes Steven G. Has the Sandbag at 135, and the reverse Warlock punch. Everybody's sending Sandbag sailing right here. Let's see where Sandbag ends up. Oh, 360 Chris M. Yet again, another monstrous shot. We might have to give Aaron Judge a phone call here because that is very impressive. 58-20. Remarkable performance right there. And what we saw second time around for everybody. Here's the second group, their second attempt. 3 Ganons and a Roy. Let's see what they can do. It looks like Abe E getting some great damage on the Sandbag. Gonna have to time up that Warlock punch. Abe E with the reverse Warlock punch. Let's see where it goes. Santiago missing the bag, but all 3 other competitors sending that thing flying. Yeah, 5,800.
Asa got off a real nice...
Asa Butterfield, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, my
sending
goodness.
that Sandbag across the country. 7,800 for
Come on.
Asa.
Why use a bat when you can use a flaming sword, he said.
Yes.
He sent that one across the pond. Let's be honest there. Impressive work by Asa. All right, our final 4 at this point. My goodness, we've had some monstrous scores. Let's see what Wyatt can do with a charged attack from Roy. And why so Sarah, unfortunately, not far, but keep an eye on Wyatt. That thing's going to be sailing for a moment here. The tension builds, and Wyatt with a very solid performance. 5,300. So Audrey, all across the board, some unbelievable performances that we saw in this first round of the home run contest.
Yeah, we're seeing people who have great control over their characters. They know just when to hold to the last second of that final hit and then send Mr. Sandbag flying.
And Morgan, it seems like what we're learning is you can put a lot of damage on Sandbag. However, it all comes down to how you time and place that final attack to send it sailing.
That's right. You got to be in position for that last hit. You have a plan and it can go haywire really quick. But man, I'm super impressed by that first group. I think they brought it, and I can't wait to see what this next group does.
They're transitioning to the next group on the stage, and just like shield surfing, we're going to see a lot of scores that are close. But to be frank, these scores are a lot higher than I expected. A lot of times we were practicing ourselves and we thought maybe 1,800, 2,000. No, it seems like you've got to crack at least 3,000 to get into the top 10.
That's true. And something like this, where you only have a handful of seconds to make your mark, I really thought that a lot more people would just miscalculate and end up with zeros.
Let's take a look at the leaderboard after the first group of 12 has gone with their 2 attempts in the home run contest. Asa Butterfield, the leader in the clubhouse, as we said, followed by 360 Chris M and Wyatt. All 3 of them, some monstrous hits. So it's going to take a lot from this second group to sneak into that top 3. Meanwhile, Santiago, Kyle, and Why So Sarah in spots 10, 11, 12. And so if you're backstage, Morgan, and you hear the roar from the crowd, what's going through your mind as far as, I might have to maybe dial it up a little bit more when I get set for my
I feel that. I think that like some of these guys might have been thinking, hey, let's just knock something out there 1,000 or so. And now that you're feeling, I don't know. I think they might see some risk taken now.
And we clearly have 2 characters that are very popular, Roy and Ganondorf. And so it looks like the players are ready. I'm sure we'll see some more Ganondorf. So let's kick it down to them as we go to our first quad box. Remember, first group of 4, second group of 4, third group of 4. Then we'll snake backwards as we get set for our attempt in home run contest. There's so much excitement here, Audrey, with this crowd, with these players as they get set, making sure that the judges are ready to go. Players choosing their control scheme, choosing their players. Let's take a look. We got 2 Roys and 2 Ganondorfs right now. You see Roy on your bottom left getting some nice combo damage, gonna get a chance to charge that special B. Let's keep an eye right there. Dan S sending it sailing. However, Sunny and Cole both strike out, unfortunately. Kyle with a nice launch as well too, but Dan's gonna keep on going. Dan, 5,300 with Roy, and just like that, Audrey, you take your time and you charge that special.
It really paid off there. We saw Ganondorf's a popular choice because he's so powerful, but he's so slow.
And we've got the crowd chanting John Numbers' name. Let's see if he can bring it.
Let's go to our second set of 4. You see John Numbers on the bottom right going with Ganondorf, going to try and connect with that reverse Warlock punch. John Numbers perfectly timed with Ganondorf. You gotta lay out and let this one fly here, folks, as they're going nuts.
When you do it with Ganondorf, that was flawless.
That was perfect. Last possible
John
moment.
Numbers, however, it's great, but still, don't forget, Ace of Butterfield over 7,000. So John Numbers, 6181. That's going to be good for second place overall so far. Very impressive performance by our defending champion.
Yeah, absolutely. He pulled it out, but you got to keep an eye on the kids, as Asa is proving.
Osden on your top right with Ganondorf trying to time up that Warlock punch. Osden! Nice connection by Osden as well, too. Zerk sending it flying, and then Emil also. Let's see what Osden can do. The youngster trying to bounce back from shield surfing, and that's a very solid score. 42.99 for Osden. Very impressive stuff. And Morgan, just an example of maybe things didn't go your way in shield surfing. Compose yourself and knock it out of the park.
You know, I'm super proud of Osden right there. He had 0 points coming into this round. He just knocked it out 4,000. He's probably feeling a lot better, and he's in our last group, so they're going to go right again. He gets a chance to just put something on top of that.
Yeah, anything over 4,000 is going to do very, very well for this group. And as we mentioned, the second attempt for this group, they can change characters if they would like to, so they'll go ahead and get that figured out. But Audrey, I'm still just in shock of how impressive and how well-timed some of these attempts have been.
It's been absolutely incredible. Some people know just how long they can hold out that final hit, and that is really where you get that distance from.
Sounds like the players are ready, so let's send it back to our third group of 4 for their second and final attempt in the home run contest. Osden had the best hit out of the group of 4 last time. Zerk with Ganondorf, Emil with Roy, and then you have Tuberon with Roy as well, too. Tuberon gonna get a chance to charge that special B with Roy, gonna send that flying, and Osden yet again connects with the reverse Warlock punch. However, Emil and Zerk, unfortunately, let's see if Osden and Tuberon can improve on their last performances. Oh, Tuberon! We've got a new leader, ladies and gentlemen! Tuberon sending it to 84.65.
Wow.
Just when you thought it couldn't get any better, there you go. Great stuff right there. Our second group of 4 with their next attempt. Very good stuff right here. You see Bowser making an appearance. Let's see if John Numbers can climb up a little bit higher. John Numbers connecting with that Warlock punch. This could be something special here. Meanwhile, Anthony and Bailey, they strike out. Marco at 1664, but look at John Numbers. The numbers just keep rolling for him. Yep, stand back and admire your work right there. Gonna flirt with the top spot. 65.43, Audrey. That could be good for top 3.
Not bad numbers right there.
John Numbers showing everybody why he came back as the defending champion. Let's go to our final group of 4 for their
we had a couple zeros in this round. They've had to sit on that this whole time, so let's see if they can all put something out there.
Those zeros can certainly shake up the leaderboard. We see Sunny K doing some nice combos with Ganondorf right here. Trying to get, Sunny K misses with the reverse Warlock punch. That could have been special. Kyle W, however, very great attempt with Roy. You see Cole soaring to over 3,500. Kyle W, don't sleep on Kyle W.
It's a nice one for
over
Kyle.
6,000, wow. Morgan.
And I gotta say, I'm proud of Cole right there. Cole was sitting on a 0. He was the last group to go, had to sit on that 0, and he knocked one out 3,500. That's gonna feel really good.
I'll be honest, I'm running out of fingers to count all the 6,000s that we had here, Audrey. Very impressive stuff from all of these players.
We've got some really high scores here, and some people, like you said, Morgan, who started with nothing and came back and proved themselves.
And that goes to show you just the resolve, and especially from some of our younger competitors. This is a huge stage for them. And we saw in the case of Osden, gets a 0 in shield surfing, but comes back and puts up one of the more impressive scores here. You gotta feel good about yourself as you get set for our next game, potentially.
Absolutely. Never count yourself out. It's not over until it's over.
Certainly is it. It'll definitely shake up the leaderboard a little bit more. As we said, our judges will tabulate those scores. We'll get you an update here shortly. But now, we talked about things being competitive here, Morgan, and after all these scores, it's really going to be interesting to see how those spots kind of 13 through 18 shake out.
Yeah, so right now they're taking their scores from the first round, the first game in this round, stacking up those from the second, putting them together, and then we're going to see that total going into the last round. And I feel like that round, the players really came into their own. I feel like they got some confidence. Most of them knocked something out there, and I think they're all going to be sort of peaking in time for this third game, which I'm excited about.
We've applied our advanced algorithms and have gotten the scores tabulated. Let's take a look at the leaderboard after our first 2 games in stage 1. And Tuberon, your leader at 24, Asa Butterfield second at 23, John Numbers, your defending champion, in third at 22. But keep an eye on spots 14, 15, 16, 17, yes, even 18, separated by just 5 points. So it could be any.
Yeah, and those, to clarify, this is the scores just for the game 2. So these have not yet been added to game 1. So it's still maybe a little bit in their head a mystery where they stack overall.
Very good point. We will certainly combine those scores, but that shows you how everybody did in game 2. And we'll obviously add all those up, and then you're going to throw in a third game into that mix as well, too. And so, Audrey, it kind of makes this third game potentially very important.
That's true. If shield surfing wasn't your thing, if you didn't hit a home run, you're really keeping an eye on this third game, and hopefully it's just right up your alley.
And now we've talked about managing your energy level basically here, Morgan, and as you get set for this third game, maybe if you're on the bottom looking out, you've got to be probably pretty aggressive in this next one.
I think so. They need to be aggressive and go for the gusto, but at the same time, you don't want to get too high or too low because this is still just the first round. So maybe winning this round, you don't want to peak too early.
And fortunately, this isn't a single elimination tournament. You get more than one life here. And Audrey, break down for us again how that underground is going to work out when we get done with this third game.
So the underground, as we've said, it's a chance for these players to fight their way back. We don't know what games are in the underground, but if it's something that they're good at, they could stay in the game. They could work their way through the underground and make their way back to the finals, and they could still have a chance to be crowned Nintendo World Champion.
And that's got to be a good feeling, Morgan, because there's probably already a lot of pressure on these players. However, when you get a chance to go to the underground, you know that you still have a chance to redeem yourself. But before we figure out who's in the underground, we still have one more game, and for that reveal, let's toss it back down to Andrea.
Jordan! Wow, what an amazing first 2 games in this stage 1. And now I think this might be the great equalizer in game 3. So I think we need to find out what this game's going to be right now.
Stage 1, Game 3. Metroid, Samus Returns. Planet SR-388, the setting of Samus Aran's latest mission, and also the final battleground of Stage 1. The skills of all competitors will be tested in this do-or-die encounter with the dreaded Diggernaut. Only the players who reach the end will be scored based on their times. May the most seasoned hunter claim the biggest bounty.
Metroid, Samus Returns, the Diggernaut sequence. It's pretty deep into this game, and this is certainly going to be interesting. Let's take a look at the rules for this one as we get set to figure out who's going to be advancing in Stage 1 and who will go to the underground. It is a race against the Diggernaut. Players will have 6 minutes to finish this aspect of the game. Here's how the scoring is going to work. If you finish this sequence in under 3 minutes, you are going to get 24 points. Doesn't matter what order you finish in, as long as it's under 3 minutes, you will get 24 points.
And that is a good run.
That is a very impressive run if you can do that. 3 to 6, you will get 12 points. Still a lot of points. We saw how close it might potentially be. 0 points if you do not complete it at all. As we mentioned, the finish line is hopping into, what did we term that area at the end of the stage here?
That's the hidey hole, and it's waiting for you with those 24 points if you're fast enough.
The hidey hole. But I know, Audrey, Metroid is your jam. So tell us a little bit more about this most recent iteration and what we'll expect to see from these players.
So this is a remake of Metroid 2 from Game Boy, and Planet SR388 is a cruel place. Samus is going to have to use all of her abilities to their fullest, and so are these players. They're going to have to use the spider ball to go up walls and ceilings. They're going to have to use their missiles. They're going to have to use their new Aeon abilities and use their lightning armor to defend themselves from damage. So there's a lot going on, and they're going to have to be just on top of all of it.
It's certainly a lot of things to juggle, and so in order to kick this one off, let's send it back down to you, Andrea.
Thank you so much, Jordan. Everybody is set down here on stage. Watch out for that Diggernaut. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1, go!
And this is basically divided into 3 sections where you're avoiding the Diggernaut. This first section, Audrey, does a really good job of introducing the players to what abilities they have to use and sort of the pacing that Samus will have to take in order to escape out of this sequence.
Absolutely. You can't just run and gun in this game. You have to be methodical. You have to really think about the obstacles ahead of you. And players are going to be put to the test. They have to eyeball something and know what to do right away.
Quick reminder about how this score. You see the clock on your bottom right. If that is 3 minutes or above, when someone finishes, they'll get 24 points. 3 minutes and under, they'll get 12 points. Right now, all of the Samuses are making their way. We'll see who's victorious in our 3rd game of Stage 1.
And what's great about this game is we actually announced that this game was going to be part of the Nintendo World Championships 2017. So these guys, this might not be a complete unknown quantity, but maybe they're not super familiar with the Diggernaut.
You see Marco R making his way through the first puzzle section, and Audrey, those puzzle sections, that's where you can really try to separate yourself from the rest of the competition.
That's true. That really puts your Metroid knowledge to the test. You need to be able to see that. So, oh, I need a grapple beam there. You need to see the red block. I need to use my missile there. So, oh!
Samus taking some damage, but has the lightning armor. Gonna have to hurry up and use those Morphball bombs because that drill is hot on her heels. Using that wave beam to go ahead and mow down some enemies, plow her way through this second section right now, doing a fine job of using that lightning armor Aeon ability and the grappling beam to get to our second and final puzzle section, Audrey.
Yeah, remember, this isn't a Chozo Snugglebot. It's a Diggernaut. He's after you. He wants blood.
So these second puzzle sections, kind of an order of operations. We see Emil getting to the second section as well too. Remember, doesn't matter the order in which they finish. You just want to finish either in the first 3 minutes for 24 points or the second 3 minutes for 12 points. If you do not finish by the time the counter goes down, you are disqualified, 0 points. You get unlimited try. Here comes Emil though, making their way through this section. Got to watch out for the enemies using a Morphball bomb. Got to be careful because Audrey, Samus doesn't have a lot of energy.
Absolutely. You have to be careful. You have to know how to use all of these abilities. And you see some people here maybe not pulling out the spider ball when they need to. Maybe not.
Looks like John Numbers is done as well too. We'll have more here in just a second with the other competitors. And it looks like Zerk trying to make his way through the second section. Still got time. Oh, Anthony getting into the hidey hole, and that's good for 24 points right there, Morgan.
That's huge. That is huge, and that probably punches his ticket to the second round.
That's absolutely right. Oh, but Dan gets grinded up by the Diggernaut. Now here comes Austin. Austin using that lightning armor, getting through the section here. Now it gets really tricky here. Austin falling down, gonna have to make his way back up, avoid that, use the grappling beam. Nice work by Austin, another grappling beam. Gonna have to hurry up, no! Austin getting damaged by the spikes right there, knocking him back. That's gonna have to reset things.
We see here, a moment's hesitation is really tripping people up here. They didn't know to use their lightning armor on those red flowers, and it cost them damage.
You hear the warning signs for Zerk. Zerk gonna have to activate the lightning armor, but no! and Morgan, there's so many things you have to juggle as we see Kyle W. getting up to the hidey hole.
I don't know, it's up to the judges, but I think he got 24 points.
Of the high jump boots, Samus makes it in there. Meanwhile, Sunny K. This is the third section, Audrey. This has really tripped a lot of people up here.
Yeah, the third section, I mean, the first part is a walk in the park once you get to the third section. It's fast, it's furious. Diggernaut is caught on your heels, and if you don't use all of your abilities right the moment when you need to, that Diggernaut's gonna get right up on you like
not
Sunny.
able to get out of the morph ball, gets caught by the Diggernaut. Dan S. using that lightning armor, making the way through the plants. Gotta climb up on the ledge, but no! Too slow, and Morgan, there's not a whole lot of room for error in this section as we are seeing on multiple occasions.
Yeah, we're going to start to see a lot of restarts stacking up in the same spots. And these players, that's going to get in their head, and they know what they have to do at this point, but can they do it under this kind of pressure? Diggernaut does not care.
Let's see if Zerk learned his lesson from last time, taking some damage from the spikes. Gonna have to go down. You still have some time, Zerk. Zerk avoiding that. Gonna have to watch out, drops down. It still ain't over, Zerk, but you gotta jump backwards into the Diggernaut, and no! Zerk! That's not someone you want to go see again. The Diggernaut, you don't want to pay it another visit. Here comes Sunny K, using another grapple beam. Gonna have to jump up, use his high jump boost, get through, and now Sunny K is in a mad dash. It's the final stretch of the 100 meters here for Sunny K. Sunny K up in the hidey hole. That's gonna be 12 very critical points. And Morgan, anybody that finishes here, that's also gonna help them very well because we might not have all 12 make it all the way through.
Finishing this is critical. You know, you don't want to have your Nintendo World Championships bump you to the underground thanks to the Diggernaut.
Dan S doing some gardening, making his way through the red plants as well too. Bombing that hole, gonna have to go backwards. Use that grapple beam. You've got one more grapple beam ahead of you, Dan. Go ahead and jump up, use the high jump. And Dan S might be sprinting to home, but no! Gotta get to the hidey hole. Dan S, you gotta finish your dinner right there. You can't leave any peas on the plate.
There is time for another. He can still finish this though. There's a minute is enough time to do the third section.
Just enough time for a couple of retries, maybe one more. Let's see if Zerk has figured out the puzzle that is the third and final stretch of the Diggernaut. Zerk going down below, avoiding those spikes that spelled his doom last time. Now going upwards, falling down through the disappearing block. Zerk having to jump backwards, use that grapple beam. No! Zerk and Morgan, there's so many things. I mean, you're married, you have kids, you have a job. It's like juggling all that stuff.
It's true. These guys are so, at this point in the game, you have to use every ability that you have at this point. And Samus, it takes a lot to juggle all that stuff.
Emil, no! Emil getting caught, and now you look at how this leaderboard could potentially shake up as Dan.
Huge.
Dan gets the 12 points. Very impressive right there and critical. But now we're down to just 12 seconds here, Audrey, and might not be enough time for some of our competitors.
It's true. Those disappearing blocks right there are tricking a lot of our players, and we're finding that the people who aren't making good use of their spider ball are having a really difficult time here.
And Zerk, that's gonna be not enough time right there. However, Zerk, I don't think you're in that club by yourself. A couple other competitors not finishing in. We quickly saw the heat in the kitchen turned up in that
I am sweating and I'm not even playing the game.
Oh my goodness. And I think what's impressive, Audrey, is a lot of these players made the mistakes multiple times in the third section, but they learned from their mistakes and they were able to prevail.
Absolutely. I mean, you really have to learn from your mistakes. All you have to do is make it to the end to get some points. So if you figure out where a disappearing block is, spider ball around that thing next time. You'll be great.
Looks like they've got the leaderboard updated, so let's go ahead and give you a look at that as far as our results from Game 3, Stage 1, as we mentioned. As we get those graphics filled out here in a second, we're still crunching some numbers. As we see, we've got 12 more of our competitors coming up here soon, and we'll get you those scores here in a moment, but a look at some of our competitors. We can tell you that John Numbers finished in that first 3 minutes as well as a couple of other players, so 24 critical points, but even just finishing with a minute left, Audrey, that was good for 12 points. Now we'll remind you, we'll have our next 12 going here shortly. They're gonna go ahead and get their consoles configured as we continue along at the 2017 Nintendo World Championships. And just some absolutely great stuff that we're seeing right there, Morgan. And I'm with you. I need a little water right now to kind of calm myself down because I think our attendees in the front row here are jumping out of their seats every single time we see somebody get close to that Diggernaut. But it goes to show you just all the different skills you have to see. Just in this first stage, we've gone from shield surfing to a home run contest to using one of Samus's what seems like 42 different abilities to escape the Diggernaut.
Yeah, and it's cool about this section is it's sort of reminiscent of what we did in the last Nintendo World Championships where we had the escape sequence from Super Metroid. And what's cool about, Metroid has a lot of exploratory gameplay. Maybe you're not running and gunning the whole time. But when you've got something chasing you, suddenly it puts everything under pressure. And that's what's cool to see execution.
And that's such a good point because, Audrey, we've played a lot of the Metroid games, and you sometimes take your time as you're exploring and checking everything out. But in this sequence, it's such a juxtaposition of what you typically do in a Metroid game.
And that's the great thing about escape sequences in Metroid game, and this one as well, is that it kind of pushes you. You have to be methodical and thoughtful and patient, just like in the rest of the game, but you also have to be pretty speedy.
So Morgan, I gotta be honest, when you first played this section, if you were anything like me, were you just fiddling around with the controller trying to figure out, okay, I gotta use this ability, I gotta use that, and sometimes you just have to be decisive and pick a way.
So I tried to get to this sequence myself, playing on the plane out here. I couldn't even get this far. It's that hard.
I think it's even harder trying to do that on the plane. Well, it looks like our next 12 competitors are set to go, so let's send it down to you, Andrea, to get things started.
Thanks, Jordan. That was such a close race. The judges are hard at work backstage. They actually had to go back and rewind something. It got so close to the cutoff. So we have our second set of competitors getting ready to take on the Diggernaut. Is everybody ready to go? All right, 3, 2, 1, go!
And I think what we learned this first time around here, Audrey, it's not really the first 2 sections that get you. It's one little stretch in the 3rd section that's tripping everybody up.
Absolutely. You kind of want to just speed your way through the first 2 sections to some extent so you can give yourself plenty of time to solve all of those puzzles and get past those perilous obstacles in the 3rd part.
You're taking a look at the 12 box right now. Kyle, Wyatt, Kyle, and Why So Sarah get things going in this first section of Metroid Samus Returns. Kyle H right here using that grapple beam to pull that block away. Let's remind you of the scoring. If you finish with that timer showing 3 minutes or higher, you're going to get 24 points. 3 minutes or less, you get 12 points. If you do not finish, you get 0 points. That's going to play a huge role in which 16 of our players advance out of this first stage in the 2017 Nintendo World Championships. And right now we see Kyle H making his way through this first puzzle section. And Audrey, once again, it seems like the players that understand Samus's abilities and can dial those up when they need to are having the most success.
Absolutely, that's the key. Not only just surviving this part, but to making good time. You have to know exactly when to use her new abilities, especially. That lightning armor is going to save you so much time, and that spider ball is going to cost you if you don't know how to use it.
Yellow Killer Bee making her way through the 2nd section. Asa Butterfield grappling beam across as well too. Santiago, it's pretty close right here with these 4 competitors as Yellow Killer Bee gets to the 2nd puzzle section. Let's zoom in on Asa Butterfield, avoiding those red plants, going on the bottom side. Now remember, Samus has 0 energy tanks, just 99 energy. You can't take too many hits here, Audrey.
Absolutely, and you only have so much Aeon that you can use as well. So if you're just running through, taking damage in your lightning armor, you might run out until the end when you really need it.
Critical moment here. Nice.
Asa Butterfield getting to the 2nd puzzle section, but Morgan, it's important to get to that 3rd section as fast as possible because very few of our players are going through in one clean run. You want to give yourself as many attempts as possible before that timer goes out.
Yeah, if you're shooting for 24 points and you have confidence in this section, you can take a death in this section and still make it under 3 minutes, but yeah, you're right. You got to get to this section to be able to do that.
Here's Santiago A making their way right. You see the Morph Ball bomb, and here's the part that gets a little tricky. Let's see if you can finish it out. Then Santiago A. Oh, it looks like Santiago A can make a mad dash to the hidey hole here, Morgan. Got to get up there, and yes! Santiago A, very impressive, 24 huge points right there. Meanwhile, Why So Sarah still trying to put the puzzle pieces together, make their way down through the bottom. But Asa Butterfield, very impressive run right here, trying to get those 24 points. Asa Butterfield.
Fantastic.
And what we're finding here is you've got to remember to pull Samus up at the tail end here, Audrey.
No, you can't rest until you're in that hidey hole.
Stephen G, this is the tricky part we've seen from everybody. Getting hit by the spike, that's one grapple beam. Another grapple beam. Stephen G using that grapple beam to get rid of the block. Now let's put on those track spikes and close things out as Stephen G trying to get to that hidey hole.
Stephen G! Barely made it.
That was beautiful. I believe that's, wow, unbelievable.
That's like when you get home and your curfew's 11, you get in at 10:59 basically. And very impressive stuff.
I think that might be our youngest competitor in the competition, Stephen G. That was fantastic.
My goodness, getting home for dinner before curfew. Kyle S, meanwhile, still trying to figure out that first section. It can be tricky. You've got more than one way to get through here, but no, Kyle S gonna get hit by that digger knot. It's a tricky section, and Audrey, if you have never played this game or if you haven't got to this part, it can be very difficult to figure out the order of operation.
It's very difficult. You have to have Metroid in your veins to be able to make good time on this part.
And Why So Sarah falling victim to running out of energy, and we've talked about that. You've got to manage your energy, you've got to manage your items, your Aeon abilities. There's a lot of things to take care of here.
And there's a lot. And it's too bad to lose because you've lost health when you're doing so well solving puzzles.
Looks like Why So Sarah and Kyle S are our only 2 competitors remaining, but they still have 2 minutes left. And it looks like Why So Sarah still can't figure out how to use that lightning armor, and that's vital in order to finish this section here, Audrey.
Absolutely. If it weren't for that lightning armor, she could have made it to the end by now.
But let's see if they can learn from their mistakes. Kyle S still trying to go in Morph Ball mode. Can't quite figure out the Morph Ball bomb right there. That's unfortunate. Why So Sarah, meanwhile, really just trying to solve that puzzle of the lightning armor. And Morgan, as we said, there are so many things you have to factor in, but then you also consider the stage, the competition, the music, the energy. It's a lot of stuff to process.
That's right, and I think that we're seeing these guys start to, you sort of hit a wall, I think, about this time after 5 minutes or so. You know what you have to do. You want to do it. You keep butting your head against that This is tough. You got to see these guys really buckle down.
Waiso Sarah has a chance. That's a grapple beam. Nicely done by Waiso Sarah. One more grapple beam. Not a wave beam, but no! You can wave bye-bye to that attempt right there, unfortunately. And that's what we're seeing here, Audrey. The shuffling through the different abilities and not being able to dial up the correct one.
Samus has so many different abilities. You have to know exactly when to use each one.
Kyle S at the first puzzle sequence. There's 53 seconds, so a clean run maybe for Kyle S. However, Waiso Sarah could be the last attempt here. Making their way.
Finally has that lightning armor.
And that's critical because there's so many red plants that you have to navigate. You've got some fire from an enemy as well too. 38 seconds left for Waiso Sarah. That is enough time at this point in the stage, but you can't have any more mistakes. It'll be pencils down here in just a second. Waiso Sarah, you're gonna have to grapple and another grapple. Waiso Sarah, and then have to shoot up, jump up. Waiso Sarah, no! Waiso Sarah was oh so close right there, and it's just, you've got to shift. You're in morph ball, then you're standing, then it's grapple beam, then it's your regular wave beam, and then it's using the high jump boots, and you got to process so much information.
You really do. You have to, it just has to be second nature at this point.
5 seconds left, and unfortunately, it looks like both of our competitors remaining, Waiso Sarah being one of them, won't be able to finish in time, unfortunately. So that'll do it for those two. Valiant efforts indeed. The blood of the Chozo flows through you still. But we looked at some very clean runs right there, Morgan, and some very impressive stuff when you look at just how much you have to continue to manage and really not panic at those moments and make the right decision.
Yeah, we saw some, like, I think it was Stephen G finish with, I mean, just a sliver, and he got those 24 points. I think we had 3 or maybe 4 get the 24 points there. So between the two, I mean, there's going to be, I think with the 6 or 7 people that got that 24, they punched their ticket to round 2, so I'm really curious to see how this leaderboard shakes out.
Sounds like the leaderboard is ready to go, so let's go ahead and give you a look at what happened after this most recent stage 1. Here are the total scores. You see your top 16 and just 4 points separated Abe from Anthony for 16 to 17. And so very, very close as far as what's going on right there. But for more from the floor, let's go ahead and toss it to Andrea, who's standing by with one of our competitors in just a moment as we get things figured out here. But I look at how tight this competition is, especially at the top here. And Morgan, some of these more impressive gamers, it's going to be very close at the top.
Yeah, I think like 360 did a good job in most of the games. Kyle W did great. Wyatt, I think, was one of our fastest competitors in the Mario Kart qualifiers, and he knocked it out of the park in a lot of those. Ace of Butterfield, you know, one of our invitees, just crushing it. So, man, it's going to be exciting to see. And the defending champ, just solid position at 51 points.
Let's explain this underground before we toss this interview here. You see the bottom 8 players, Anthony, Osden. We're going to go ahead and transition to the underground here. And let's see who's going to be battling it out in our first elimination underground. That's Anthony, Osden, Emil, Zerk, Sunny, Waiso, Sarah, Kyle, and Bailey. They will make up the underground, where if 2 of them are victorious, they move on to the next underground stage. So your thoughts on the tension that might be built as we get set for the next underground?
Yeah, they might be feeling the nerves right now, but remember, this is your chance to battle your way back. If you're great at whatever game this is, you could still make it. You could still be the champion.
Well, as I said, Andrea's standing by with a word from one of our competitors. Andrea.
Thanks so much, Jordan. I am here with Brian and Austin, who traveled all the way to New York from British Columbia, specifically for the Nintendo World Championships 2017. Yes, exactly. That's a long way. Brian, what does it mean for you to bring Austin here and compete with all of these people on such a big stage?
It's been a whirlwind experience. It's started several weeks ago at the qualifiers in Seattle. We've had the time of our life. It's a world-class event, and Nintendo's made this a world-class experience for us. I am living a little bit of my dream through Osden from when I was younger and watched movies and the Nintendo World Championship. And yeah, Osden's super excited.
Austin, are you excited to be here, having a good time?
Yes. I'm having the best time of my life here. Thanks, Nintendo, for making the best games, and I want to work for you one day.
You hear that, Nintendo? Reggie, are you listening? Austin wants a job. All right, I'd love to know, Brian, before we kick it back, what kind of games do you and Austin like to play together at home?
Well, the game we play together the most is Mario Kart 8 and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. But what do you do to me? You always school me every time we play.
It's okay, it's what I did to my dad too. Now, I'd love to stay here and chat with you guys, but we have the first underground game to play, and we're gonna find out what that game is right now.
Underground Stage 1. Balloon Fight! After its surprise appearance in the Nintendo World Championships 2015, Balloon Trip Mode is back. Competitors must dodge electricity, escape man-eating piranhas, and pop some balloons while they're at it. With 3 minutes on the clock, they'll have as many chances as they want to set a high score. The top 2 players will stay in the competition. May the fiercest balloon fighters keep their heads above water.
Some good old 8-bit action balloon fight as we welcome up our good friend Bill Trinan up to the set here. And Bill, just your early impressions on all the excitement we've had with the tournament so far.
This has been incredibly exciting. We can hear the house from back of house. People are going insane. The competition in Metroid blew me away. That is an incredibly challenging segment of gameplay, and to see that many people get through it, I was amazed.
Very impressive stuff, and we do have to get to our first underground game, which is Balloon Fight, so here are the rules for that one here. It'll be 3 minutes on Balloon Trip Mode with unlimited attempts during that time. It's simple. The top 2 highest scores will advance. And you look at Balloon Trip Mode here, Audrey, and what does that spell out for our competitors as they get set?
So we gotta see the players. They're gonna have to avoid all these balls of electricity. They're gonna have to collect as many balloons as they can, and they're gonna have to stay away from the fishy at the bottom, or else they're gonna be fish chum.
Some very important things to keep in mind with the scoring, though, here, Bill. Each balloon is worth 300 points. For every second that you fly, it's worth 20 points. So for you, how do you gauge going after balloons and being aggressive, or maybe just trying to stay afloat for a while?
Well, and that's, I think, you're in the underground. Only 2 people are going to survive. I think you have to go for the points. And of course, as you collect balloons, they change color. That's going to impact things too. We're going to lose, a chunk of our players here. 2 are going to survive. But we do have good news. Everyone who's here today is going to be receiving a very special certificate, those of us who have played in the tournament. So even those who drop out here after Balloon Trip will still be receiving their certificate, proving they're a part of Nintendo history, including 2 special players. We have Bianca and Tyler, who are alternates who have been waiting in the wings in case anything happened to one of our players, but they'll be receiving one as well.
That's great stuff, Bill. You certainly love the Nintendo community, everybody coming together for these amazing World Championships. But let's get started with our Balloon Trip Mode. So let's go ahead and toss it back down to Andrea.
Thanks, Jordan. All right, our first game in the underground, a shot redemption. Our players are ready to go. 3, 2, 1, go!
And let's get started with Balloon Trip Mode as you take a look at your 8-box. And the controls on this one here, Audrey, you've got to really feather that A and B button because you got to stay in control of your player the entire time.
That's true. If you don't feather that button, you're gonna go up, you're gonna go down. You have to have really precise control over your guy there.
And we see Ozden taking an early exit, but you get unlimited tries here, which is very important. And so, Bill, with those unlimited tries, you can't panic if you pop that balloon early on.
That's right, and unless we've got somebody who's really talented going all the distance, you're gonna have a chance to get back in it. Unless, of course, the fish pulls you under.
Emil hitting a star and getting hit by the fish, but we're looking for the top 2 scores in Balloon Trip. Zerk collecting a whole bunch of balloons right there as if he was at the zoo. That's going to help his score, 4,800, flirting with 5,000 at this point. And Audrey, I see a bubble there. What will that do?
If you go for the bubble, I suppose we're never going to find out, Jordan.
Though that 60-30 by Zerk looks like it's one of the higher scores we have so far. 1:50 left in this one. And Bill, we see a lot of times these balloons might put you in a precarious situation. And for our players, they've got to manage all the risk and process everything that could happen.
That's right. And of course, as you see, the lower you go, the likelier you are to run into that fish. We do see the bubble. If you hit that bubble is going to stop those electric bolts in place. and perhaps make it a little bit easier for them. But yet,
Oh, why so Sarah turning into some chum for the fish right there. Sunny K, we saw the 60-30 from Zerk. Looks like Sunny K can make up some ground with the whole cavalcade of balloons right there. And that's gonna go ahead and put Sunny K above the 6,000 mark, but no! However, hope is not deflated. You still get another try. 1 minute left still in this one, and you start to think about how aggressive you need to be at this point, as Emil is over 6,000 as well too, Audrey.
Absolutely, you need to stay calm, stay precise, and honestly, go for as many points as you can. This is your last chance at survival.
Sounds like we've got 3 competitors that are pretty close to 6,000 points total. They've got 48 seconds to sort things out.
I'll say the certificate, right? Or do you not want me to repeat that since Bill said it already?
And we've got 40 seconds left in this one. Anthony getting things popped right there, unfortunately. Looking for anything in the 6,000 range at this point. 30 seconds left. 8 players, 2 of them trying to hold on to their championship hopes and hope that they don't float away as we get set for the final 20 seconds. Why so Sarah can put out an impressive score if they can just get through the stars. Yes! Look at the finesse, the movement, the agility in the air, but no! You hear the buzzer, and that's not a good sound with 10 seconds left. Anthony, this could be something special if you can just grab a couple more balloons. 5 seconds left for Anthony. Got to sprint and get some balloons at this point. Try to get that bubble, Anthony. That could be huge to get 6,000, but no! Anthony at 59.30. And our judges, I do not envy their job after this because they've got some scores to figure out at this point. And it seems like, Bill, when you get to that section and the stars start to move, it gets a little bit trickier.
Is this my generic toss?
it does. The stars can move. They can move in different directions, and you've got to kind of be able to track those as you're trying to fly through. It's a very challenging situation.
And so we'll get things sorted out here with the leaderboard. The top two finishers, the two highest scores here, Audrey, will advance to the next stage of the underground. But the competition, even at the underground level, my goodness, it is very tight, as we saw a lot of players right around that 6,000, high 5,000 mark.
Absolutely. The competition is fierce. Nobody can relax, not even if you're in the above ground, not if you're in the underground. You have to stay on your toes.
And very difficult stuff. And Bill, we continue to talk about the wide array of skills you need as a player. And you go from shield surfing to home run contests to Metroid Samus Returns, running away from the Diggernaut, to balloon fight?
That's right. I actually hope that maybe it was a bit of a relief for them after the stress of that timed and very, very dangerous Diggernaut chase scene, to be able to come into the underground and see something that's at least familiar from 2015, but maybe the last thing that we see that's super familiar from that underground.
And what's awesome is everything's so exciting here because you have so much at stake in the championships. Let's take a look at a replay from Balloon Fight and just some very exciting moments. But why so Sarah float away? You look at this moment here, why so Sarah navigating those moving stars, and just when you think caught in the corner to a twinkly doom, able to avoid it right there. And why so Sarah bumping that score up, and especially in this type of game, Balloon Fight, every pixel matters here, Audrey.
Absolutely. If you lose control for a second and you just let go of that A button a little too long, you could find yourself in the twinkly doom you mentioned.
Well, it's that term of rinse and repeat we discuss here, Bill. The fact that maybe players who aren't too familiar with this game get a chance to maybe hit the stars a couple times, and then they're able to re-rack things and get better control of stuff. But let's take a look at our leaderboard after that first underground. Absolutely exhilarating. Kyle S. and Emil move along. It was so tightly contested right there. My goodness, impressive stuff right there. And it goes to show you, whether you are in the regular stages or the underground, it's going to be very stiff competition here, Audrey.
Absolutely. These players have a lot in store for them yet.